episode 107 of Toke Signals TV, where we bring you the biggest in cannabis and hemp news stories every week. I'm Steve Elliott, the editor at tokesignals.com, and I'll be guiding you through the news. First, let's look at our Toke Signals Bud Pick of the Week. Got a couple of pretty flowers of Frankenberry here, a strain I developed by crossbreeding Frankenstein and DJ Short Blueberry. As you can see, those are some nice looking girls there. Let's do the news now, shall we? In the United States this week, we have some members of Congress ready to call it quits on marijuana eradication. The Drug Enforcement Administration is continuing its losing streak. Last week, 12 House members, led by Democrat Ted Lieu of California, wrote to House leadership asking for a provision in an upcoming spending bill that would strip half the funds from the DEA's cannabis eradication program and instead spend that money on programs that play a far more useful role in promoting the safety and economic prosperity of the American people. That is, domestic violence prevention and overall spending reduction. Now, the DEA pisses away about $18 million a year in coordination with state and local authorities to pull up marijuana plants being grown both indoors and outdoors. The ineffectual program has been plagued with scandal, controversy, and ridicule. In the mid-2000s, it was revealed that most of the marijuana plants pulled up in the program were actually ditchweed, feral hemp plants that contain almost no THC. Overzealous marijuana eradicators have recently launched heavily armed SWAT raids on okra plants and warned the Utah legislature about the threat posed by stoned rabbits who had cultivated a taste for marijuana. Last year, the DEA spent an average of about $4.20, seriously, for each marijuana plant it uprooted. In some states, taxpayers paid nearly $60 per uprooted plant for eradication efforts. The ineffectiveness of the program is illustrated by the fact that after 36 years of federal marijuana eradication efforts, the share of Americans who have tried cannabis has nearly doubled to 44%. The seizure of these plants has served neither an economic nor public safety nor a health-related purpose, wrote Lieu and his colleagues. Its sole impact has been to expend limited federal resources that are better spent elsewhere. The letter writers noted that a provision to strip $9 million from the marijuana eradication program passed on a voice vote earlier this year without any opposition from either party. They urged leadership to include the provision in must-pass sentencing bill later this year. Next year, Lieu said he intends to introduce a measure to eliminate the marijuana eradication program entirely. In Massachusetts this week, the marijuana legalization drive got a little clearer. The push to legalize marijuana in Massachusetts got less complicated. Voters had faced the possibility of two separate pro-legalization questions on next year's ballot, but now only one group's initiative is still standing. The Committee to Regulate Marijuana Like Alcohol, CRMLA, on Tuesday said it had submitted enough signatures, more than 64,750, to the Secretary of State to move forward in getting a proposed law in front of voters. If the signatures are deemed valid, the question will go to the Massachusetts legislature. If the legislature fails to act by May, CRMLA will need about 11,000 more signatures to make the ballot for the November election. The leader at Bay State Repeal, a competing ballot question, on Wednesday conceded his group hadn't gathered enough signatures to qualify. "We didn't make it," Steve Epstein said. The two groups have pitched different approaches to legalization. The CRMLA, backed by the Marijuana Policy Project, is of the tax and regulate philosophy, with pages and pages of tight rules, including a new state commission and an excise tax on cannabis sales. Bay State Repeal, on the other hand, led by longtime local activists, sought what it called the least restrictive laws possible, such as allowing most existing retailers to sell marijuana and dividing like supervision of the industry between several state agencies. The basic difference between the two efforts is that between legalization and repeal, wherein repeal means removing the existing laws against marijuana without adding a bureaucracy on top of that to replace them. Epstein on Wednesday said he'd use every skill in his power to oppose CRMLA's ballot question, calling it a bad law that supports crony capitalism. But other activists said they'd support CRMLA's proposal if it's the only one to make the ballot. Bill Downing, the chairman of the Massachusetts Cannabis Reform Coalition, confirmed on Thursday that he now personally supports CRMLA and said he expects MassCan to eventually vote to support it as an organization. Other activists had previously said they were worried if both questions made the ballot, they could split the vote, resulting in both falling short. Though our approach differs from Bay State repeals, we hope that all who supported BSR will join with us to end the 100-year-long hypocrisy of punishing adults for choosing a substance that is less harmful than alcohol, CRMLA spokesman Jim Borghesani said in a statement on Thursday. Massachusetts voters in 2008 decriminalized possession of small amounts of marijuana, and they legalized medical marijuana in 2012. In Alabama this week, an epileptic mom who used medical marijuana is raising funds to fight charges. An Alabama mother who faces up to 10 years in prison after using marijuana to treat her seizures while pregnant has started a funding campaign for her criminal defense. Katie Darovitz, 25 years old, of Russell County, Alabama, suffers from epilepsy severe enough to keep her from driving or holding a job. When she learned she was pregnant, she stopped taking her anti-epilepsy drugs, which have been linked to birth defects, and instead began using marijuana to prevent seizures. Now, for making the safest decision for her unborn child, she was arrested a couple weeks after the December 2014 birth of her son, after they both tested positive for marijuana. Alabama, you see, is one of a handful of backward states where mothers can be prosecuted for exposing a child to illicit drugs under the state's chemical endangerment of a child law, simply for using a harmless, non-toxic, even healthful herb. Marijuana is the substance most often cited in indictments and arrest reports for women arrested for drug use during pregnancy in Alabama, according to an analysis of almost 500 criminal cases. Darovitz faces up to a decade in prison if convicted. Advocates for her family have found 2 out-of-state lawyers to work on Darovitz's criminal and child custody cases, but they need a local attorney to help. The out-of-state attorneys are working for free, but the family still needs money to pay for travel and other expenses. The family's seeking up to $15,000 for legal expenses and has started a GoFundMe campaign. Darovitz's mother-in-law, Debbie Word, has reached out to local lawyers. One attorney didn't want to take the case, and he urged her to take a plea deal. But that deal would saddle the young mother with hefty court fees every month, according to Word. This is such an injustice, Word said, and I can't imagine her going to prison for trying to protect her baby. The stress of facing a lengthy prison term is taking its toll on Darovitz's health, according to Word. The young mother's seizures have intensified, and marijuana is the only treatment that keeps them under control, she said. If Darovitz enters a drug treatment court, she wouldn't be allowed to use marijuana to treat her seizures because medical marijuana isn't yet legal in Alabama. The family believes a jury won't convict Darovitz if they hear her story. Expert witnesses who have researched the use of cannabis during pregnancy have agreed to testify in the trial. Some studies have shown babies of marijuana smoking mothers are healthier and score higher on cognition tests than babies of mothers who smoked nothing at all and didn't use drugs. This has been very stressful, and I hope it just goes away because all I was doing was trying to protect my son and keep myself alive, Darovitz said, and I really hope I can see my son's first birthday. In Minnesota this week, intractable pain was added as a qualifying condition for medical marijuana. Minnesota Commissioner of Health Dr. Ed Elliott on Wednesday announced that intractable pain, as defined in Minnesota law, will be added to the list of qualifying conditions for which patients can legally access medicinal cannabis. The commissioner must notify the chairs and ranking minority members of the Legislative Health and Public Safety Policy Committees. Intractable pain will become a qualifying condition for medical marijuana effective August 1st, 2016, unless the legislature passes a law stating otherwise. The vast majority of the 23 states with workable medical marijuana programs allow the use of medical marijuana to treat intractable pain. This is a sensible and compassionate decision that will help a lot of Minnesotans who suffer every day from intractable pain, said Robert Capici of the Marijuana Policy Project. The commissioner heard from countless medical professionals, patients, and families from across the state about the benefits of medical marijuana for people suffering from this debilitating condition. We commend Commissioner Elliott and everyone else involved in taking this important step toward improving the lives of countless Minnesotans, Capici said. Medical marijuana has been found to be an effective treatment option for people suffering from severe and chronic pain, he said. It, it is oftentimes more effective than prescription painkillers, and it is undeniably far less addictive and less toxic. Recent research shows that states that allow medical marijuana for severe and chronic pain have lower rates of fatal prescription drug overdoses, Capici pointed out. The decision to add intractable pain as a qualifying condition in Minnesota will improve not only the health of individual patients, but also the community as a whole. In Nebraska, a tribe expressed interest in growing marijuana this week. The Omaha tribe of Nebraska and Iowa, with a 300 square mile reservation about 90 minutes north of the city of Omaha, is interested in growing cannabis. We need jobs, said Daniel Webster, who lives on the reservation which extends across the state line into Iowa. Issues such as poverty and unemployment have reached critical levels, according to Omaha Tribe of Nebraska Chairman Vernon Miller. Right now, my community has a 69% unemployment rate, Miller said. According to Miller, the dire economy is leading to desperate solutions. We're not seeing anybody else looking to assist us, and we acknowledge that, so we're trying to pursue whatever we can, he said. The tribe, considered a sovereign nation, early this month polled its members on the legalization and sale of medical, industrial, and recreational marijuana. All three were supported by the majority, so that gave us the direction that the tribal membership wants to pursue, Miller said. A federal Department of Justice memo last December sparked the interest. It extended the same drug cannabis law guidelines to the Native American reservations as are applied to states. As long as minors aren't allowed access and the weed isn't allowed to cross borders of jurisdictions that do not allow it, the feds announced they wouldn't interfere with tribes legalizing marijuana sales on the reservation. At this point, it would basically be like Marijuana Island, said Omaha Tribe Attorney General Maurice Johnson. The tribe is researching whether growing and selling cannabis would be profitable under such rules. From a law enforcement perspective, it's a bad idea because it's illegal, said U.S. Attorney for the state of Nebraska, Deb Gilg, who is apparently either so incompetent or dim-witted that she missed the federal memo last year. You've got the operational issues of how do you even get the marijuana to the reservation. That in and of itself is a crime, Gilg claimed, and I will state this for the record, we will prosecute. Omaha tribe members said they are just looking for fair treatment and want to use their sovereignty to help their people. In Chile this month, a mother was restricted access to her baby for smoking marijuana. A Chilean mother says a hospital is restricting her from seeing her newborn daughter because she admitted smoking marijuana a few days before she gave birth. During labor, Cindy Melanie Ortiz told hospital officials that she had used cannabis to relieve pain in one of her arms that had been broken. 6 hours after her daughter, Luciana, was born on November 19th, a social worker and a psychologist told her that the hospital had activated a security protocol and that her baby was being transferred to the neonatology unit. She said that since then, she's only been allowed to see Luciana for 2.5 hours a day and is not allowed to breastfeed her baby. The pain in my arm was too strong, Ortiz said. We researched several methods to ease it, and we took a decision as a family because we didn't think it would affect the baby. It wasn't recreational. It was strictly medicinal. Hospital officials in the southern city of Talcahuano claimed they were just following protocol when they told a local court they had found traces of marijuana in the mother's system. We've taken actions for the greater good of the child, claimed Patricia Sanchez, acting director at the hospital. There's nothing out of the norm, and as a consequence, the baby is hospitalized. The court ordered the baby should remain at Las Higueras Hospital until a decision is made at a hearing. Planting, selling, and transporting marijuana is illegal in Chile, with prison terms up to 15 years. But the law allows medicinal cannabis use with the authorization of several government ministries. One Chilean municipality legally harvested medical marijuana this year as part of a government-approved pilot project aimed at helping ease pain in cancer patients. Las Higueras Hospital is part of that program along with the DEA Foundation, a nonprofit group sponsoring pain-relieving therapies. In California this week, congressional leaders called for the Department of Justice to halt enforcement against medical marijuana dispensaries. California Representatives Congresswoman Barbara Lee and Congressman Dana Rohrabacher and Sam Farr on Tuesday urged Attorney General Loretta Lynch to reconsider enforcement actions against California's medical cannabis dispensaries following comprehensive, stringent, and enforceable industry regulations recently signed into law. We are concerned that the Department of Justice continues to threaten individuals and businesses acting within the scope of state's law on the medicinal use of marijuana despite formal guidance on exercising prosecutorial discretion and recent changes to federal law, the letter reads. It is counterproductive and economically prohibitive to continue a path of hostility towards dispensaries, wrote the members of Congress. In closing, the members wrote, the will of both the voters at the ballot box and in state legislatures across the country should be respected. Before we go this week, let me point you towards a must-read article on TokeSignals.com. It's another in the series of Cannabis POW of the Month articles from activist Sherry Sicard, who does so much to make sure these men aren't forgotten. The article is called Cannabis POW Craig Cecil, a Life Sentence for Repairing Trucks. When Craig Cecil heard the judge condemn him to a sentence of life without the possibility of parole, he felt relief. Despite the ludicrous prosecution he had just endured, Cecil thought there was no possible way a judge could could ever let a first-time offender who did nothing more than repair trucks that had been used to transport marijuana serve a life sentence. Craig was wrong about that. You can read his story on TokeSignals.com. Hope you check that out. Until next time, stay lifted. See you then.